Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Ashley with Brindle Babe Designs, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make the honeysuckle sweater. This is an intermediate level pattern, and the pattern has sizes extra small to 3X. In this video I'm going to be making the size large. So if you'd like to make the pattern in a different size, definitely go check out my blog post where I have all the stitch counts and everything you'll need for the size that you want. You can get that for free on my blog at brindlebabe.com. Okay, now jumping into our materials, we are going to be using Lion Brand Comfy Cotton Blend. This is a weight 3 yarn. It's a DK weight. And I am using the color Whipped Cream. And now for the crochet hook, I am using a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. You will also need a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, not shown here. Now to get started, you're going to make a slip knot, and you're going to chain a total of 65 stitches. And we will be using our 6.5 millimeter hook at this point, and for most of the sweater. I will let you know when we change over to 5.5 millimeter. Another important thing here is before you jump right in is to get gauge. Make sure you're getting your gauge. The gauge for this pattern is 12 stitches by 11 rows. Okay, now that you have your chains, we are going to half double crochet in the second chain from your hook. And you will half double crochet each stitch across. You should end up with a total of 64 stitches at the end. Okay, now moving on to row 2, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And then you're going to half double crochet into the first stitch next to your hook. And go ahead and half double crochet each stitch across. You're going to repeat this row until you have a total of 8 rows. So you will have 8 rows of half double crochet to start. Okay, now we're going to move into our lace row, and you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and you're going to double crochet in the first stitch next to your hook, and then you're going to skip 1 stitch and double crochet into the next. Now this will start your wrap double crochet stitch. After you work your double crochet, you're going to yarn over, go around the double crochet you just worked, pick up a loop, pull through 2, and then pull through 2 more. And that's how simple the wrap double crochet is. And once again, you're going to skip 1 stitch and repeat the same steps. Now this row is going to be the first row in your 4-row repeat. You will repeat this stitch all the way across until you get to your last 3 stitches. And here's what they should look like. Once you get down to your last 3 stitches, you're going to skip 1 stitch, do a wrap double crochet into the second stitch, and then for that very last stitch, we're just going to work 1 double crochet. Now moving on to the second row in our 4-row repeat, you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and work a half double crochet in the first stitch next to your hook. You will then half double crochet each stitch across. You will repeat 2 more rows of half double crochets the same as you did here, and that will complete your 4-row repeat. Once you're finished with that, you'll start again and do your lace row, and then work the 3 rows of half double crochet. Here you can start to see the way everything should look in the sequence. You will repeat the 4-row repeat until you have a total of 36 rows, including the first 8 half double crochet rows that you worked. Once you finish your 36 rows, and now go on to the shoulder shaping on both sides. You're going to work a total of 18 stitches across, and I worked 6 rows in half double crochet. You're going to go ahead and attach your yarn to the other side, the opposite end, and repeat those same steps. This will make the opening for us to work our ribbing for our collar. Once you're finished with this panel, you're going to make another panel following the same steps we just went over. Alright, now moving on to our sleeves. We're going to repeat the same steps we just worked. The only difference is the amount of stitches and the amount of rows. So to start working your sleeves, we're going to work them flat and then attach them at the end. You're going to start by chaining a total of 51 stitches. So you'll work your first 8 rows of half double crochet and then start your 4-row repeat that we just went over. You will repeat this until you have a total of 28 rows. Now that you're finished with your sleeve, you're going to change to your 5.5mm hook, and we're going to start working the ribbing. You will start by chaining a total of 9 stitches. And now you're going to single crochet in the second chain from your hook. And you're going to go ahead and single crochet in each stitch across. Throughout working your ribbing, you're going to want to double check and count your stitches because it's easily to miss one stitch and then you'll throw off the whole thing. So once you get to the end, you're going to actually slip stitch 2 stitches along the edge of your sleeve. Now you're going to chain 1, turn, skip the first 2 slip stitches you worked and work only in the single crochets we worked. So now you're going to single crochet in the back loop only for each stitch across. Okay, now that you have reached the end, we're going to chain 1, single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch, and then you're going to slip 2 stitches along the edge of your sleeve. And you're just going to go ahead and repeat these 2 rows until you have reached the edge, the very end of your sleeve here. Okay, next step is we need to lay our 2 panels on top of each other and seam the edges together at the tops of the shoulders, where your shoulders would be. So you're going to go ahead and make a slip knot, and for the seaming here, I'm just going to do slip stitches. You definitely use your preferred seaming method, but I like to use the slip stitches for the tops of the shoulders. It just gives it a stronger seam. So go ahead and chain one and start slipping each stitch across. Okay, now that you've seamed your shoulders on both sides, you're going to lay your work flat. You want to make sure you haven't seamed your sides up to this point. That's going to be the very end. But you're going to lay your body panels flat, and then you're going to take your sleeves and lay those flat up against your seam for your shoulder. You're going to take some stitch markers just to hold things together. And here I counted the center stitch, so the middle stitch, so that I can line it up evenly to my body panel. So I marked this center stitch, and you want to just attach that to the seam of your body panel. And this will just keep everything in place as you go along to seam. And next what you're going to do is just go ahead and place a stitch marker to hold the ends together. So you'll do it on both sides. And this is really important so that as you're seaming, it's even across your body panel and you don't end up all wonky. All right, now here we have our sleeve attached to our body panel. Now we're going to go into seaming up the bottom edge of our sleeves together. So I left a long tail on the end for my sleeves, and you're just going to chain one, and I just did slip stitches here, but you can do your preferred seaming method here. And you do this all the way across until you get to where your armpit would be. All right, now that you've finished both of your sleeves, we're going to go on to our collar ribbing. So you're going to make a slip knot and attach your yarn to the right side seam on your right shoulder. We're going to follow the same steps we did for the ribbing on our sleeves, and we're going to do the same thing here for the ribbing on the collar. So you're going to pull your loop up, and then you're going to chain a total of 9 stitches. Then you're going to single crochet in the first chain next to your hook and single crochet each stitch across. Okay, now that you're back to the beginning, you're going to slip stitch across 2 stitches. Now, I would just make a note here, try and just work your slip stitches as evenly as possible, because this is going along rows instead of actual stitches. Just try and be even as possible. Once you get down to the front part of like where your neck would be, it'll be simpler because there'll be stitches that you can work through in there. But on the shoulder ends, just try and work as evenly as you can. Okay, and moving on, you're gonna skip the first 2 slip stitches and work single crochet back loop only across each stitch till you get to the end. Once you get to the end, chain 1 and single crochet back loop only on each stitch back across, and slip stitch those 2 stitches along your body panel. Repeat these 2 rows until you get back all the way around and back to the beginning of where you started your ribbing here. Okay, here we are back at the beginning with our finished ribbing. Very simple. You're just going to, you want to make sure when you end, you're ending on your yarn being at the top of your ribbing instead of the bottom. That way it's easy for us to just seam down the edge here. Very simple. You'll just chain 1 and slip stitch each stitch down until you get to the top of your body panel. Alright, now that you have finished your collar, the last step we're going to go over is seaming the sides of your body panels. So starting from the top, you'll attach your yarn to the base of the armpit, chain 1, and start seaming each stitch across. You will work all the way down until you get to the top of your last 8 stitches or 8 rows. So we worked on our body panels, we worked the first 8 rows in half double crochet. So once you get to the top of that, you're going to stop your seaming, and that will give a split seam on the end of it, on the end of your body panel. So if you don't want a split seam, go ahead and go all the way down. And this finishes up the honeysuckle sweater. Thanks so much for following along. I would really appreciate if you follow my channel if you like this pattern. I have more patterns for free on my blog at brindlebabe.com, and I like to do video tutorials for just about all of my patterns here. So be sure to subscribe to keep in touch. Thanks!